Hey, good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this December 5th version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon. All of our stuff is available at EOA.network. That takes you to a link tree where you can find all of the locations where you can watch our content. There's also a place where you can donate if you like what EOA Live does.
Yeah, it's called coffee.
Called coffee. Yeah.
And it's like buying like somebody a coffee,
Yeah.
I guess.
So appreciate those people that have taken advantage of that on our benefit. So here in a little bit, we're going to have Taylor Scroggins, who is the executive director of the Right Track Resource Center, which is the rebranding of the warming station, and they've expanded their programs, and he's going to talk to us about that. So
Sweet.
how are you?
First Friday. Doing good.
Yeah.
Doing good. It's cold. It's cold.
It is, but man, I sure love the sun shining yesterday.
It's clear. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as it's not putting water in the air, I'm good. In
Yeah.
one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Right. But it is very clear. It's very clear and very cold. The pass. I was reading this morning. The pass. I guess there's like really bad visibility up on Cabbage right now.
Oh, really?
Fog and freezing and yeah. Well, it was slippery yesterday. Remember when we went
Yeah.
outside in the parking lot? It
Yeah.
was like a little bit slick. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, it's frosty. I mean, there was frost on the window this morning when I got up, and it's that time of the year.
Yep.
But man, I tell you, I when the sun shined yesterday a little bit, it's like it just changes my whole attitude personally.
Yeah,
You know?
me too. I
Yeah.
like sunshine.
It's like,
I don't like it gloomy outside. It's depressing. I don't like it getting dark so damn early either. We got to fix that.
we got to fix that.
Well, yeah, they got like I don't like. It shouldn't be dark at 5.
Yeah,
Like nobody likes that. I don't think.
yeah,
And it doesn't get light till almost 7. Like, I know the days are shorter in the winter, obviously, but if we got rid of daylight savings time, right? It wouldn't be getting dark till 6, right?
You know what's funny? I saw a little video the other day on time zones. Okay, and the time when you look at time zones, they're not just straight lines.
No.
You know, because countries carve out and stuff. Well, so the Russia, but that's not the. Is it Russia? Is that what they call themselves now?
Yeah.
Soviet Union. Thank you. Okay, so they insisted that their entire country be on the same time zone, which is understandable. But it means that there are some, because it's so vast, there are some areas that the sunlight won't come up until 10 a.m. Imagine that.
I mean, if you lived in Alaska, that happens sometimes, right?
Well,
The
what?
further north you go.
Well, but that's a different issue.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just saying, I mean, so it'd be like us insisting that Hawaii, for instance, you know, if
was on our time zone.
was on Pacific time, yeah. So then, you know, there would be this because Hawaii is 5 hours behind us or ahead of us. I can't. It's behind.
I don't know.
Yeah. So right now I think it's 5 in the. It's like 3 in the morning right now in Hawaii.
On this same day, though.
Right.
Yeah, they're behind us.
Yeah.
I think, they got to be behind us.
Yeah.
Because the further west you go,
Right. Right. So
earlier
it's like 3 in the morning right now in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Okay. So then it would be anyhow. You get the point.
Yeah, I get exactly what you're
Yeah.
saying. It would suck, is what
Yeah.
it would. Really. I mean, I think, like, I don't care as much about, like, the light during the morning, but, like, at, like, 5 o'clock, I want it to be light outside. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird. But it is what it is.
Yeah. What's interesting about changing daylight savings time is that it's wrapped up in government, and anything wrapped up in government getting changed is like
Pulling
monumental.
teeth.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, hey.
Let's do it.
All right.
And Sports Report brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress. Make this season cozy and bright. Give the gift and comfort of Flex Steel furniture that brings warmth to every room. Find it at Northwest Furniture and Mattress. LeGrand boys hoops kicked off their season last night. They had a tough loss to Umatilla, 73-58 up at the high school. They go to Pendleton tomorrow and play Clarkston, Washington at 4:30 p.m. in the Red Lion Invitational. The girls also play tomorrow. They start their season off with a game against Columbia River in Pendleton at the Red Lion Invitational. That game will start at 3 o'clock over in Pendleton. LHS Wrestling hosts the Milenberg and the Safeway Buckle Classic next weekend. Not this weekend, but the following weekend right here in LeGrand. They're both worth checking out if you have time. Go check out these tournaments. It's an awesome way that LeGrand has historically kind of kicked off their wrestling season, and you just get to see great wrestling. This Tigers wrestling team on both sides, the girls are the returning state champions, and you'll get to see Lindy Isaacson in action, who is defending state champion. And then on the boys' side, the boys are picked to finish really high again. I think Oregon Wrestling Forum has them at either number 2 or number 3 right now in the state and 4A, so go check them out. EOU Volleyball won their first pool play game in the national tournament yesterday, defeating Midland 3-1. It was a good game. They played good at times, and there was times where I was like, we're not playing that great. But the second set was the set we lost, and we saw like a momentum change there. We were down probably 10 points at one time in the second set, and Miley Mills came in for EOU, and she like changed the energy, and then we ended up losing the second set, but we only lost it by a couple points, and then we went on to win the next 2 sets to move to Friday's game against Kokomo, which is at the same time. And if we win that, we're in the final 8. So when you're in, if you win both your games in pool play, you automatically advance. You win your pool. But if everybody ties, then it's kind of fate is in the hands of, tiebreakers and all this. So we definitely want to win that game on Friday and just move on to the Elite 8. If you want to watch the game, you can just go to EOU Sports, and there's a link there that'll take you to the NAIA website to watch it for free. It's tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. EOU Men's Wrestling's in Clackamas all weekend this weekend. They have duels on Saturday, and then the Clackamas Open on Sunday, and then the women host the Mountaineer Open on Sunday right here up at EOU all day long. So I think they're going to use the Quinn and the field house, so get up there and check it out. EOU men's and women basketball are kicking off their home CCC schedule this weekend. On Friday, the women play OIT at 5:30 with the men to follow against OIT. And then on Saturday, both the men and women play first the women at 3 and then the men at 5 against Southern. So it's their CCC opener. And this EOU men's basketball team, I got to see a little bit of them. They look really tough this year. This is the toughest I've seen a Chris Kemp squad since he took over as head coach. And I haven't got to see the women's team yet this year, but we'll get to see them this weekend, obviously. EOU Indoor Track has a little event tomorrow, the purple and blue. So I'm assuming, and don't quote me on this, but if I hear purple and blue, I'm assuming that C of I is coming over to take on EOU in a little track thing that's going on tomorrow. The pole vault starts at 10 and all other events start at 11, and that's right up here at the field house on the campus of Eastern Oregon University. AM Sports Report brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress. Big Red Rocking Chair on Elm off Adams in LeGrand.
All right. Good stuff. Thank you, man.
Yep.
So John Comby said it is 5 a.m. in
So it's
Hawaii
a
right
3-hour
now.
difference?
Yeah. Yep. So thank you for that correction. We need that.
Where do you say that?
I don't know. It was there a minute ago. So,
He used one of them vanishing comments.
yeah, maybe so. Is there vanishing comments?
No, I don't know.
On Facebook?
Yeah, it's called I said something dumb and I erased it. Not saying that he said something dumb, but you know what I mean? Like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. But
Yeah.
people can screenshot. You know what I mean? There's no point.
I know, but yeah,
it's
like if
once
you've
you
done-
say it, it's
yeah,
over.
there have been times that I've commented on one of my friends' posts, and I'm like, oh, I just should have cut my mouth shut. It's like, man.
That's why when you see something stupid, screenshot it really fast. That way you have ammo against people. Like, oh yeah, remember that? Oh, I deleted that. No, you didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, you only thought you
Yeah,
did.
you thought you did.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So it's 5. So it's a 3-hour difference in Hawaii.
Right. But that would be, we won't get back on it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's look out. Let's look at the weather. Let's look outside. And it's on so you might have noticed our weather cam alternates between the screenshots. I mean, these are the local highways that are around the area, local passes. So it spends a minute on the weather cam, and then it spends a minute on that. So anyhow.
And it's a screenshot of that. It's not a live. But it's like very, very recent.
Yeah, it does. I think it like updates once every minute or two.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not a live.
But you can definitely see what the roads look like.
Right. Which is the whole point.
The whole point.
Yeah. So
It's very clear today.
Let's look at the graphic.
Oh, see, he says it's 6 a.m. in Hawaii now.
Yeah. So 26 tonight, and
cold.
It looks like it's going to be there. We have some moisture coming in.
Saturday and Sunday, it looks like. But it's not staying long, at least 2 days, and then the moisture goes away.
Yeah.
I'm okay. Let's just get it. You think we're going to have a hard winter or a soft winter?
I have no idea.
I don't want to jinx
What are they
it.
predicting? I haven't heard any.
I think people gave up on it, on predicting. Like everything starts at such weird times now, and I don't know. I haven't heard anything. I mean, we're late, for sure, but that's typical now.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but you know what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
I'm ready for spring.
I know what you're hoping for. Shorts weather, dude.
Yeah, I'm ready for spring.
I'm not sure that's
already.
reasonable. Yeah.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, hey, Taylor Scroggins from Right Track Resource Center will be with us right after this.
Eastern Oregon is full of interesting people, with interesting minds and interesting things to say. Here at EO Live, we're committed to connecting you to these intriguing people with EO Talks. We let our special guests share their ideas and life experiences with deep, open, engaging, and inquisitive conversations. You'll also be informed in depth on some of the most recent and relevant events, issues, and more. EO Talks on EO Live, your connection to Eastern Oregon, now on Roku.
It's lovely. Too expensive.
All right, we're back. How are you, Taylor?
I'm good, Brent. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you are recently the executive director of Right Track Resource Center.
Absolutely.
Which we have previously known as
the Union County Warming Station.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess let's start there. The rebranding.
Yeah.
And I know that they had been talking about, because Maggie was on the show, I don't know, maybe a year ago, something like that.
February, I think.
Yeah, so not
Almost
quite. Okay.
Yeah.
So and I know that you guys were expanding. They were expanding programs at that time, and so, which is awesome, because clearly, and we've been kind of involved on and off in the warming station conversation over a course of several years, and certainly, everybody recognizes that, the overnight housing is just a patch. I mean, it's needed, but it's just only the very beginning of what's needed. So that's awesome,
Yeah.
So do you tell us about the rebranding and kind of what's happened there?
Absolutely. So there are a few reasons for that rebranding, but I think really the most important one is that we are more than just the warming station now. That is still a really core part of our operations.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of the season right now. But we have expanded. Maggie has done excellent work in really trying to offer more resources to guests, to neighbors who are unhoused in our community, unhoused and some housing insecure. So there's a lot of direct services being done by the Resource Center now. We operate year-round, not just during the warming station season. We have drop-in resource days on Mondays and Wednesdays from 9 to 3 right now, where guests can come in during the day. They can do a load of laundry, they can take a shower, or they can get connected through Maggie to resources. So signing up for housing applications or working on medical applications. We have a grant to help people get free access to their birth certificate. A lot of these guests don't have that documentation, and so we can help them procure that. We also are bringing in partner organizations. So a couple times a month, we have someone from DHS come in who can help people directly with eligibility questions and signing up for health insurance and things like that. We have people coming in from EOCIL, the Eastern Oregon Council for Independent Living. We have people coming in from CHD on Halloween. We had a healthy Halloween event where people could come in, get STI screenings, get flu vaccines, and things of that nature. So we really have been expanding the resources that we're offering, and we're looking to do that even more in the coming months and years. So it was time to have a name and an identity that really reflected everything that we're doing.
That's awesome. So you started as the executive director when again?
I've started at the end of October.
Okay.
In this position.
So what excited you about going to work for them?
It has become a theme more recently in my career. I really wanted to use my skills and my knowledge to have a career that I felt was helping people. More recently, before this, I was working with RISE services, working with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I felt very strongly about that. But this just seemed like a really natural evolution in my career and doing something that I care very much about. Which is, supporting historically undersupported communities.
Yeah. Do you have a sense of, how does other cities our size around here, or even, similar cities, and LeGrand is a little bit unique. This area is unique because oftentimes people will talk about, well, I'm rural. We're rural, but right. that to them that means they're 75 miles outside of a 3 million city.
Right.
Yeah, that's not rural,
Yeah.
And so but how do you think LeGrand compares to the services and the needs that other rural areas have, do you think? Do you have a chance to do?
It's a good question, and I'd say that most areas comparable to us, we all have some resources and we're all missing some resources. We recently were just having a conversation that there are some resources in Baker County for kind of, in-house detox rehabilitation for people suffering from substance use disorder. But Baker doesn't have an overnight warming station. So we are kind of the flip side of that. And so it's a little different in every community that you have. And even every community that has something like this with an overnight shelter and connecting people to housing resources, it just varies really widely based on, who's involved and what the priorities are that they've established for their community. I'll say for our community, I think we've seen a lot of success. Year on year, we're seeing more and more guests not return during the warming station season because in the off season, they've been connected with housing and have their own housing.
Which is the point.
It is the point. In fact, just recently, a guest who, has been with us for a couple of years was able to say that they are not coming back this year because they got approved for their housing application, which is just, it's what we want to do.
Right.
We want to get to a point where, for the vast majority of cases, any kind of being unhoused is temporary and short-term and non-repeating. Those are really kind of the goals that we're trying to get to, is getting people to the point where, helping people get to the point where they can be stable and in housing, and build from there. Yeah.
It was recently we had Nick Vora on. He's on regular, and we were asking him about the specialties of their ability to rescue. Okay, and so And so Union County, I think their specialty is tactical rescues with ropes, and I'm trying to remember. I mean, that's one thing that they really. And the point of this is that Baker, one of their specialties is in swift water rescue type stuff, and Nick kind of explained that in this rural community, I mean, in any incident, then it's really difficult for any organization to be really good at everything.
Right.
And so then you do have to lean on other people, And so then, I don't know why I hadn't really put that together before, but us being able to help, we don't have in-care facility like we really need to, and certainly the capacity of that has to increase, but at least Baker does have some strengths that we don't, and vice versa,
Yeah.
So, well, let's talk about your needs. I mean, because I know that's so. Give us the current. What's the? I mean, this is the warming station season.
It is.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had a guy out here in the parking lot. I mean, I talked to him last night. It's like, well, are you spending the night right here? And it's like, yeah. I mean, and I told him, it's like, man, I'm concerned about your health. And so, I mean, we're at that point. So what's the status right now for you guys?
So the status right now is that we are open, and we've been able to open the shelter a majority of nights since starting the season on November 15th.
Okay.
We have had to have some closures, and that really comes down to volunteer coverage. For our overnight operations, we really rely on having volunteers in the building for a variety of shifts. And this year in particular, there's a lot of different reasons that volunteers, maybe who've done it for a while, they're a little burnt out, they maybe need to take a step back. So we are looking to kind of rebuild our volunteer roster, is our big thing. And anyone who would like to help out, we have people who serve food as soon as the shelter's open. We have people who are just up in the middle of the night there in case anyone's, having an issue or needs to be reminded of a rule. There's really a wide variety of volunteer needs that we have, including, we have people who go out to EOU for resource days to kind of promote us, do outreach. We have volunteers who come in during our walk-in hours to help out. We have volunteers who, once a week take the bedding to the laundromat and make sure that all gets clean. So yeah, we have a wide variety of volunteer needs, and that I would say is our really biggest need right now is volunteers.
So for somebody who has to spend the night, what does that require, and how many does that require?
So we have a requirement of having 2 people on the premises at all times, 2 volunteers on the premises at all times in order to be open. It's for safety, it's for backup, accountability, all sorts of reasons. Typically for those overnight shifts, we have 1 person who's there from midnight to 4, and 1 person who's there from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. And then we have a sleeper shift. So the sleeper has a space, they have a cot in our kind of food pantry area where they can, get set up with a sleeping bag, spend the night there, really just there in case something arises where their help is needed. And then, filling those other 2 shifts are some of our hardest to fill shifts.
Yeah.
I could run through in general. We have people there from 5 to 8 doing hospitality and intake. We have people there from 6 to 10, which we close the doors at 10:30, so that kind of rounds out the end of intake. 8 to midnight, and then midnight to 4, 4 to 8 in the sleeper. Those are all of our shifts that we seek to fill every night. And so far, our volunteers have really risen to the occasion. It's been a really impressive season so far. But we could always, be open more if we had some more volunteers to, step up and fill that roster.
And so is there a way, when you're not open, is there a way for people to know that you're not other than going up there?
Yes, we make the call by about 2 or 3 p.m. Try to keep it to 2 to give people as much advance notice as possible. So if we make the call, we do post it on our Facebook page, but we also contact dispatch. We contact the hospital's emergency department. We contact public transit on days that their office is open, and just try to inform those centers of activity where our guests are most likely going to hear the information if they don't, check Facebook.
Yeah. And so would you say the overnight stayers is that the hardest volunteer to find?
Typically, yes. Most of the time, if we have to close, at least one of those shifts is open.
Yeah.
And hasn't been filled. We are looking right now into using some grant funding that we have for staffing to hire some overnight staff, but that's a developing process, so it's something we haven't done before.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, definitely the need for volunteers for that overnight is key.
Yeah.
I have a question about that.
Absolutely.
How many paid staff are there?
Currently, we have 2 paid staff at the Right Track Resource Center full-time.
So I'll ask the hard question is, why aren't one of them doing the overnight when you can't find somebody? Because I guarantee you people are thinking that. Like if we're going to pay people and we're going to call it the warming station, and the most important thing is getting people off the street at night when it's cold, and we have paid staff that are there working during the day, why not cut that up into maybe one night during the week that paid person is on call and has to do the overnight if they have to?
So we do have on call. Maggie and myself do alternate weeks where we're on call. So we may be at home, but if volunteers at the station run into a situation that they don't know how to handle, they give us a call and we do respond to that. I would say that the main reason is just that there's a lot more that goes into running the station, even just the warming station itself, let alone the expanded resources that we're offering during the day, that it would be very difficult to chop that up. We, have our roles that we're doing. We need to be recruiting volunteers. We need to be training volunteers. Developing the programs, we're working on becoming independent right now from our fiscal sponsor, Neon, who have been fantastic. But part of me coming on board is working to, again, eventually get to a point where we're on our own, and that means applying for grants, reporting on grants. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that if we shut all of that down to make sure that we were the ones who were there overnight, it could really throw some monkey wrenches into the mix. That's why we are looking to use this staffing funding that we have to procure some dedicated overnight staff.
Yeah, and that makes sense. What's involved in becoming a volunteer if somebody wants to do that?
Absolutely. So the first step, there's 2 different avenues really. We have an application on our website, which is rtrcoregon.org. There's a volunteer application there that you can fill out. It asks you a little bit about, what your skills are. It asks you about what shifts you would be willing to do. And then it gives you information on coming in to take a training. But we also, except I don't think we're doing it tonight, but typically Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5:30 to 7:30, we're offering trainings at the facility. And so it's getting some training, learning the ins and outs of, shelter operations, and what, rules need to be followed and what the processes are. Once you have that training, we do run a background check on all of our volunteers, just for, liability purposes. But then you're really ready to go. We do ask the volunteers get their food handler's card because we do serve food during the intake time. That's about it. You sign up, come to a training, and then you're ready to go.
Yeah, good. What are some of the areas that you're wanting to expand in that you guys haven't? That you have. It sounds like you're doing a lot of collaboration and people are coming in. Is there something that you're wanting to bring in house and help with that you're not able to do right now?
That's a really good question. And I think right now what our first priority is really expanding the availability of the resources we currently have.
Sure.
Being able to set up appointment times with people, expanding our drop-in hours. So being able to, reach people at the time and place that works best for them. So expanding that way first, and just the resources we have, how available are they? Beyond that, I do know we're constantly looking at ways that we could better serve our clientele. We would love to be able to get our, partner organizations in more often. We would love to be able to arrange a way for them to come in when the station is open, because the guests who come in during the day for services are sometimes different from the guests who are spending the night.
Right.
And so if we were able to offer some of those resources like screenings or applications during those evening hours, that would be really great. Those are a lot of the things that we're really looking at right now in terms of expanding.
Now, you said your fiscal sponsor right now is Neon.
Yes.
And that means that, well, you just explain what that means?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when the organization decided that they wanted to have full-time staff,
Okay.
they weren't quite at a point where they could just jump into that. So Neon did offer and stepped in to be our fiscal sponsor. They fiscally sponsor a couple of programs.
But what is that?
How many?
What is that?
What it really entails is, so Maggie and myself, as our full-time staff position, we are employed by Neon to work at the Right Track Resource Center. So all of that kind of back-end payroll, personnel kind of stuff Neon is handling. Neon also does have their umbrella program manager, Stephanie Van Leuven, and she really has led the charge on applying for grants and reporting on grants. Because we are largely grant funded. We do have quite a few private donations, but a lot of what allows us to have full-time staff and be open year-round is that grant funding, largely from the state. And so that's really the role that they've played, is they really handling the financial side of things so that we can operate and develop our programming.
So does Right Track have? Are they a nonprofit? So help me understand. I mean, I get the payroll, I get the part of handling employees and the burden that is, and so on and so forth. Is Right Track able to apply? Does Neon have an advantage in applying for grants other than personnel to write them that Right Track does not have?
Largely, no. Largely, it is their status as an organization. Again, part of bringing me on is to start the process of the Right Track Resource Center being they're completely independent. That's going to take some time, especially with these grants. There's a process to make sure that, when that transfer happens, that can happen smoothly.
Okay.
And so, no, right now it really was so that they could start doing what they needed to do right away.
Okay.
And part of my role is going to be to slowly take on those responsibilities so that then we are operating completely on our own. The Right Track Resource Center is its own 501c3 nonprofit. We do have our own board of directors. They're a very active board. It's been a pleasure working with them so far. It's been really great. But yeah, that's kind of the situation, is that right now, when they wanted to get started on really expanding, they needed that help from Neon. And we still do, but slowly working on becoming independent is one of the next steps.
So in the grant writing world, grant receiving world, maybe is a better. So Neon does that all the time. That's one of their things. Okay, and so then the grant givers are more, I mean, and you'll have to confirm that I'm saying this right. So the grant givers have more confidence in being able to give to someone who clearly has a track record of receiving grants and managing those grants. I mean, you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah,
Is there
I wouldn't
any
be surprised if there is a little bit of that dynamic. But I think really, we're building our reputation as our own independent entity as well. And I think what it really just comes down to is the time and the skill set and the knowledge to apply for these grants, to track them, to have the, expense tracking capabilities. That's something that we're going to have to develop to be able to do on our own. So that for these grant reports that they know that we're spending the money on what they told us to spend it on.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, there's really just a lot of organizational overhead. And Neon has a lot of experience working with that organizational burden. And that's really where they've been able to come in and really help us
good.
Get on our feet.
Well, and I know from working with you at LeGrand Main Street that you're good at grant writing. I mean,
I like to think so.
Yeah. So, I mean, is that one of the things you're kind of hoping?
Absolutely, yes. So we are, right now, a lot of the work that I'm doing directly with Neon staff is getting more familiar with the grants that we currently have, getting familiar with the processes that we've used to get those grants and reporting on them, slowly starting to take that on. A lot of that is probably going to wait until the end of the warming station season because it's a whole different endeavor. I am, overseeing staff. We're doing hiring. This week we're, having final interviews, we hope, for another direct service position that would be doing work very similar to what Maggie is doing, in addition to, volunteer coordination and a couple of other things. So hoping to have another third full-time staff member, as well as, again, me coming on has allowed us to realize that we could use some of our staffing funding for that overnight staff so that we can become more consistent. And my dream would be to get to a point where we do have overnight staff for the entire season, able to have really great, fully comprehensive training and resources so that then our volunteers can really just focus on helping people is one of my goals as well.
So how is, with Neon being the fiscal sponsor, but you being accountable to a board? Okay, yeah. So how does that work? I mean, do people stay in their lanes? You know what you understand?
Yeah,
I mean, who's your boss? I guess that's a really
That is a good question, and it is a little complicated. So currently, my actual supervisor, for all intents and purposes, is Liberty Avila, the executive director of Neon, and she's been wonderful in helping me get onboarded into this role. But I do have a very close relationship with the board, and they are a working board. They really care about this organization. They've all volunteered in the past. They still volunteer. In fact, assuming we're able to open tonight, tomorrow morning, the board chair is going to be coming in from 4 to 8 to, help things get going. Largely, though, they've worked very closely, Neon and the RTRC board, to develop that working relationship and the different responsibilities. And so there's a lot of work there as well, with the board being able to make really important decisions. They have their own tasks and projects that they're working on right now to help us work towards greater independence. So it's a complicated relationship with the two different organizations working together, but it's been a very, what's the word I want to say? Very synchronized.
Yeah.
We work very well together, and so it hasn't been too weird.
Right. No, and I mean, I would imagine that there are times it'd be So, what is something? I mean, now that you've been in it a little bit longer than a month, 2 months.
In my time is an illusion. Yes, we're into the second month now.
That's another conversation. Okay, so what would you say that people out there like me just don't know? They just have never. It's not occurred to them. I mean, has there been? I guess, in particularly in the warming station world, because that's, that is the thing that we see.
Right.
I mean, when we see somebody that's spending the night out by the dumpster because they don't have a place to stay tonight, then, I mean, any compassionate human being is going to be like, I don't know why they're there, And at this point, I don't really care why
matter,
they're there,
yeah.
but they clearly should not be out in the weather when it's 20 degrees, you know. And so, but what is something that maybe has surprised you that people wouldn't know, or something that you didn't know that occurred to you?
That's a good question. You know, I will say one thing is that there are a lot of people who have a perception that, you know, warming stations and organizations like ours are kind of attracting unhoused individuals from other areas. That's something that I have heard a lot, and it's something that we just do not see. You know, we have some people who are traveling, who maybe are stopping in LeGrand for the night and don't have a place to stay, and they may come in, but by and large, most of our guests are here in LeGrand. They live in LeGrand or Union County. They have for a very long time or their whole lives, and so they're our friends and our neighbors, people that, you know, a lot of you know, citizens of LeGrand have gone to school with, who have seen, you know, in different times in their lives, maybe working a job. There's a lot of different reasons that people end up unhoused, which I think is also something that can surprise people. But I think that's really one of the number one things, is that the people staying at the station are our neighbors. They live here. And so this is not, you know, something that is bringing people from other areas of the state or the country.
Yeah.
So I think that is one thing, that a misconception that some people have, that I think is really important to see is not the case. I think that also speaks to the need for organizations like this in other areas as well, because they have their own communities that are there, who live there, who want to live there, and are just, you know, having a tough time.
Yeah.
I'd say the other thing is learning some of the reasons why someone may be long-term unhoused was a little new to me. You know, learning to understand that there are some, just as an example, and, you know, there isn't anyone specific right now that I'm thinking of, but I've been learning that there are some mental conditions that cause people to become exceedingly anxious and uncomfortable in an enclosed space like any building. And so they will choose to live outside because being inside of a building is going to, you know, mess with them and make them extremely uncomfortable. That's something that I hadn't considered really before joining.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'd say really the biggest takeaway, the biggest thing that people should know is that a lot of the time, you know, people just need the right support at the right time to get to where they want to be. Our guests, you know, the vast majority of them, they want to be housed. They aren't happy necessarily with their situation. That's one of the reasons that we're called the Right Track Resource Center. You know, it's not that there's one right way to be or one right track to be on, but that every individual has the track that's right for them, that they would like to be on. And so we really try to help them find that and get on that track, and get the resources that they need to be where they want to be. And we've been having some really inspiring success with it so far.
That's awesome. So when you are at capacity, or excuse me, I mean, when you are fully staffed, what is your capacity to house someone overnight?
So our facility is very safely rated for a maximum of 25 people. That's the comfortable maximum.
Including staff or 25 guests?
25 guests.
Okay.
Yes. And so we can have 25 guests per night comfortably. You know, in situations where the weather is really extreme and we have to maybe push to 26 or 27, I think we've found ways to do that, especially if someone, you know, we have kind of lockdown hours. We don't want people to come in or out between 10:30 and I think it's 5 or 6 a.m. Just for safety, you know, keeping the doors closed. But
And that's a no exception, right? Like if you leave after 10:30, you're not coming back in.
Yes. It's not no exception. The exception is if they are released from a hospital or accompanied by law enforcement.
Extenuating
circumstances,
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Pretty extreme. On very rare occasions, I think we've worked out an individual circumstance. If someone maybe gets off work past the cutoff time, we arrange for a special cutoff time for that individual. But again, it's very rare circumstances. Largely, yeah, the rules are once we lock the doors, you have to stay there.
And that's like the same concept as like a high school dance, right? Like
Right.
you don't let the kids leave once they come in because the kids are going to go out in the parking lot and get high.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
we.
I hate to say it like that, but
Well-
that's pretty much
yeah,
the premise
yeah,
of it, right?
Yeah, if you've got to leave for a while and come back, it's probably not for a good purpose.
Exactly.
And it's for safety. And it's for safety of our volunteers. It's for safety for the other guests. And just trying to enforce that rule and make sure that people know that we want you here. Stay here, please.
Yeah.
Is there during the screening process when people are coming in, like how do you ensure that somebody's not like coming in with dope or a weapon or you know what I mean? Like how? What does that look like?
We do ask them if they have any substances, any paraphernalia on them. If they have a weapon, we don't allow firearms on site. If they have another weapon, we do, take it, put it in a safe with their name attached to it so they
Like
can
a
get it in the
pocket
morning.
knife
Right.
or-
Yeah, something like that. I've seen like pepper spray, things like that.
Yeah, I mean they live on the street.
Yeah, basic items, but we don't want them having them around, but, we put them in a safe so they can collect them in the morning. Generally, we see really great success with the self-attestations of people saying that, they have something and, surrendering it or learning that they, can't have that there, and if they want to stay, they have to not have it.
Right.
On the occasions that we do find that someone has broken those rules, we have a really good system in place, asking them to leave. We don't obviously want to have to kick someone out into the snow, and they don't want to be
It
kicked
goes
out into
against
the snow.
the purpose of the place.
Yeah,
right?
but they don't want to be kicked out into the snow, which is, I think, part of why we have such great success with people being like, yeah, this is what I've got. This is the situation. And then we do also, if someone does break a rule, we have a ban system in place. So we can say, 1 night, 3 nights a week. If they do something really extreme, we could do a lifetime ban. I don't think that's something we typically do. Typically it's shorter term. It's just like, hey, the rules are rules for a reason. We have to enforce them. And people are really understanding with that.
Another question while we're talking about that. What's the process that's in place if somebody comes in and they're obviously high or drunk?
So we do operate as a low barrier shelter. We're okay if they come in and they're high or drunk. We want them to be safe. We want them to be out of the cold. So as long as they don't have any substances or paraphernalia on them, including alcohol, they're allowed to be there.
Is there training in place for the volunteers to kind of deal with that? Because obviously people act a little bit different when they're under the influence of.
There is, that is a part of the training, is talking about, what you might run into, what different situations might call for. And that is also why we do take our on-call process very, very seriously, so that if the situation is ever beyond a volunteer's capability, they can call one of us and we can come in and resolve the situation. We also do have a really great relationship with law enforcement, great relationship with the police. So in the event that something really escalated, we're not strangers. We want to make sure that our volunteers are taken care of.
And you have 2 people on all the time.
Absolutely, yeah.
I like it.
Well, awesome. So Taylor, tell us one more time before we quit, how, if somebody wants to volunteer, the kind of volunteers you need, and I think that Kyle put the website.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
If you want to volunteer, rtrcoregon.org is the Right Track Resource Center's website. We have a page. It's called Donate/Volunteer. So you can donate, but you can also just click a link there to access our application for volunteering and fill that out. But you can also just come to one of our trainings. So we do try generally to have them on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5:30 at the Right Track Resource Center, which is at 501 3rd Street here in LeGrand. And in terms of types of volunteers that we need, we can really use people wherever they want to be. But especially if they're willing to work those overnights, that is a really difficult shift to fill. We also do accept meal donors. So one of our wish list items is a commercial kitchen so we can prepare food on site. But currently we're only allowed to heat food on site. So we do arrange for meal volunteers to make a home-cooked meal, bring it in, and then we can heat it up and serve it to our guests. So that is a need as well.
Awesome. Cool. Were you able on Thanksgiving? Did you do anything?
We were open on Thanksgiving, and we did have a volunteer bring in an entire feast. I wasn't able to be there, but my understanding is that it went very well. People were really happy.
Yeah.
Lots of leftovers.
Well, and that's awesome. Good. Yeah. Because we all have opinions on how people get there and how people should get out of their situations. That's a whole nother discussion. But at the end of the day, somebody's in need, if you're on a dirt road and somebody has got a flat tire and they need help, you're not talking about, did you start the trip with lousy tires?
Yeah,
you're not entering into a conversation of like, what, you ran out of gas in the middle of nowhere? Those are all the questions that might run through your mind, but your situation is, hey, we got to get you, and this is very similar.
And on that note, sometimes we've had guests, the pass is closed and people are stranded here and don't have the money maybe to grab a hotel. Yeah. We've had people stay at the station for that reason as well. There's so many reasons why someone may be able to benefit from this organization and this service, and so we're really happy to be able to offer it.
Yeah, no, and I guess I'm preaching a little bit to people that that would relate to me, friends of mine that know me. The fact is that we, if you call yourself a compassionate person, you either are a compassionate person or you're not.
Yeah.
And that compassion extends many times to not understanding somebody's circumstances. So do what you're supposed to do. So
you can also sign up to volunteer on their Facebook page. It's Union County Warming Station. On the left-hand side, there's a Google document, and you can follow it, and it'll walk you through the ability to sign up to volunteer.
Yeah. Hey, thank you. And don't be a stranger.
Absolutely.
Because we have openings in our schedule, and we're happy to, make people aware of what's going on.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I'm always happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. You want to get us out of here?
Let's do it. On this day, December 5th, 1848, President James K. Polk triggers the gold rush of 1849 by confirming a gold discovery in California. 1908, on this day, the first football uniform with numbers on it is used by the University of Pittsburgh.
What year was that?
1908.
Wow.
1933, on this day, prohibition ends in the United States at 5:32 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when the 21st Amendment to the U.S. Constitution is ratified, repealing the 18th Amendment. 1974, on this day, the final episode of Monty Python's Flying Circus airs on BBC TV. And then 2022, on this day, construction begins on the world's biggest radio telescope, the Square Kilometre Array in South Africa and Australia, with a collection area of nearly 500,000 square meters, is built to test Einstein's theories and search for extraterrestrial life. Looking for aliens with a big old telescope. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Number one song on this day in 1974, Kung Fu Fighting by Carl Douglas. And then the quote of the day comes from Robert Louis Stevenson. Keep busy at something. A busy person never has time to be unhappy. One more time. Keep busy at something. A busy person never has time to be unhappy.
All right.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thanks again, Taylor. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Here.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
We'll be back Tuesday.
Yep.